All right, welcome into another Longhorn Borrower Conversation. Jared Sandler joined by Zayra Mendoza. Zayra, thanks so much for taking time to be with us.
Thank you for having me, Jared.
All right, so let's get right to it. You are now an experienced real estate investor.
Oh my God.
Is it?
Hearing it, like hearing it.
That's
it's
crazy, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It was just a few months ago when we started. So, yeah.
Okay, and well, there you go. All it takes is a few months. You get a deal, you get the work done, you get it on the market, and bam, you are an experienced.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. When did this inkling or itch come, or what led to you wanting to get into this?
So it's always been there. Like I've always knew I wanted to be some type of real estate just because that's where I started. I did start in property management years ago, transitioned into working with an investor who used to flip homes all the time. So learning, like not learning, but like seeing it from the backside, I was like, oh, this sounds like super interesting. But I was like, I could never do this. Like I don't have this type of money, So I was like, it stayed there. And then I became a real estate agent. So seeing it, I'm like, okay, I need to get started. But how? So that's where it led me, and I met Deba, and here we are now.
Yeah, we've talked about Deba Douglas a lot on our channels. Deba is someone with whom we have a tremendous relationship. She's sent a lot of her own deals through us, and then has mentees like Zayra, and she sends all her mentees to us, and it's great.
Coming in, I was like, this sounds so like mind-blowing that being from the backside, I was like, oh my gosh, I could never get these numbers right. I would never be able to do this on my own if it wasn't for that, but and of course for you and Longhorn.
Well, we appreciate that. What if I were in your shoes and I saw someone like Deba? I mean, ultimately I would definitely jump in because Deba is the exception to what I'm about to share, but there are a lot of people out there who they're gurus or they're teachers or experts or whatever, and then you connect with them and it's like, what do you actually do? I don't understand. What was it about Deba where you're like, yeah, this is going to be a good fit. I trust her and this is someone I want to learn from.
So I'm sure you know Jimmy, right?
Mm-hmm. Jimmy's her brother. Yeah.
So we built a friendship a while back. So seeing his testimony, seeing how she worked and everything that she had to offer, I was like, I'm going to take this leap of faith just because if somebody else is doing it, why not me too? And when I met her at first, I thought the same thing. I was like, what am I going to learn from her? Because like you said, there's so many people out on the internet, doing this and that show you just what they want you to see, but Deba's actually showing you the process. She's showing you the houses. She's showing you what to look for, what not to look for, what a good amount is, what not a good amount is, what you should, just a whole bunch of little features that I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going into it that we don't see. And now that I'm in, it's like, this is everything and it didn't actually come all into realization until I was actually doing it. Like you could talk all you want, but until you're actually there, you're like, oh, okay, this is what she meant. This is what they said. This is how. Okay, so now I understand it.
And if you're watching or listening and you've maybe seen Deba's name, I'll tell you, she is the real deal, and she does help so many people. And there are some folks out there who they're gonna take your money and run and not really care about you. But that's just not. I mean, we've had so many borrowers who have come to us from Deba, and the deals that they send us are always good deals, and they're clearly in good hands. You mentioned until you actually do it, that's like a totally different.
Yeah.
And so, all right, I could take, Deba's class and I could sit there and learn just like I did and like you did in school. And, you're learning about this or that, but you're not actually doing it, right? So what was it like when, all right, Deba's showing you a house and this could be the one. Like all right, I've learned all of, her teachings, but now I'm actually doing it. Like I might be putting pen to paper. What was that feeling like for you?
It was nerve-wracking. Like, it was surreal. Like, I was not how can I say, like, I wasn't in belief until we actually closed and we sat there. And then me and my husband were sitting there, and I haven't told him this, but I was sitting there and I was like, are we going to be able to do this? Like, is this happening right now? Like, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, all this hard work led us here. And it's magical. Like, it's so surreal. And then I didn't, like, it hasn't grasped until you said it right now that you were like, you're an investor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am.
Well, that's awesome. It's great hearing that. And I think, I don't know, everyone has different motivations for work, and obviously we're all in it to make money, right?
Yeah.
But I do think one of the cool things about working here at Longhorn, from the very first day I started, it was really important from the top down to value people, right? And we're not out there investing, with what we do from a lending side, but it's really cool meeting people and hearing stories of people who have been nervous about doing this and jumped in the deep end, and they figured out how to swim, or people like yourself who are just so excited, like, you're doing this, like, yeah, and you should be really proud. Just yeah, it's easy. We see it from the other side, right? We see the good, we see the bad, but we also
Growing up,
yeah.
I used to, see all this. My mom used to be a housekeeper, nannies, and stuff like that, and they used to do stuff like this. Be like, oh, we're flipping homes, we're doing this, we're building, and I'm like sitting there, like, okay, where is that gap? That difference where, like, okay, how do I get to that? And honestly, it's just a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you gotta put your big girl panties on and just go. You know what I mean? Like, you just gotta do it. Like, leave the fear behind, leave all that, and just focus on, this is gonna be a great turnout, and just pray for the best.
When were you able to go to sleep at night and feel confident, like, all right, like, we got this? Like, you said, right, you're about to buy the property, and understandably there's some nerves and like, oh my gosh, can we do this? But when were you like, yeah, we got this, we're doing this?
When I saw the house completed.
Okay, so not until the end of the rehab.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into the deal a little bit. So this is a house on Glen Park in Dallas. You got it for $165,000. You had a scope of work right around $63,000.
Correct.
And at Longhorn Investments, we'll fund 100% of purchase and repair, up to 75% of the ARV for a rental, 70% for a flip. And with the appraisal coming back at its valuation, well over $300,000, we're able to fund this at 100% of the purchase and repair, right? So I guess, first of all, how important was that part of the program to you, and why maybe Longhorn made sense to you, the ability to fund 100%?
We had money saved, obviously, but when we saw the numbers, we're like, where are we going to get $62,000 from, right? Like, for the rehab and stuff. So when Dad was like, it's funded 100%, we're like, okay, so what do I have to do? Like, she's like, just make sure you stay under budget. So I was like, okay, I could do this. I forgot your question.
No. Wait, how important was the 100%? I mean, like,
Important. Like I said, I didn't have $62,000 in my bank account. I mean, I had a little bit, but not 62. So I was like, is this doable? And she's like, yes, it's gonna happen, Zayra. She had to like sit me down, and she's like, it's working out. You just have to make sure your numbers are right. And I'm like, okay. And then when I talked to you, you were like, yeah, just put it in. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was like, okay. And then when it realized, that this was, oh my gosh, they funded the whole thing. Like, when I saw the house, and I was like, Longhorn, Deba, and us, we did this. Like, we delivered this house, this product on the market, ready to go. Like, it was amazing.
well, you did it. We were just along for the ride. Along for the ride. We were from.
You were a big component of this. Without you and Longhorn and your whole team, people like me wouldn't be able to do this.
Well, that's awesome. We love hearing that. Thank you so much for saying that. What was it beyond the 100%? And just for people listening, the beauty of our ability to fund 100% is that you don't need $100,000 to do this, right? We have borrowers who have 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and they're able to secure a deal. And we have, there's a borrower I can think of right now. He and his wife have, I think it was like, a little over 40,000. They got 2 deals going because the numbers make sense, right? And that's one of the beauties of our program. But I'd like to think that it's not just the numbers, that, we're going to be there and help support and kind of be an extra layer of security. But I'm curious, what was your experience in working with us, and how, beyond the numbers, did Longhorn serve as a partner throughout the process?
It was an amazing experience. Everything was very smooth. And I feel like if I'm a very worrisome person, that if I don't get an answer right away, I'm like, start freaking out. But every time I reached out to you or a member of your team, it was like instant. I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about this. Like, even one time, like the first draft payment, and I was like, okay, it hasn't come out on the first. So I called, and even remember, I don't know if you remember now, and they're like, call me right back. It's like, it's going to come out tomorrow, I promise. And I was like, okay, I just want to make sure, because I didn't know that on closing, I gave my bank account information, and I was like, I didn't know what it was for. I just gave it, and I was like, oh. My husband's like, I was like, I don't know what that was for. I was like, it's in my bank account, so I just gave it to them. I was like, they know my information. And I was like, what else could happen? So then I was reading it, and it said, oh, it was going to be drafted and whatnot. So I was like, okay, whatnot. So it didn't come out, and it's like, oh, it's come out on the 5th. And I was like, okay. But everything was really smooth. I didn't have any problems trying to get information, or even when I reached out to you about, the new servicing thing that you had about the invoices stuff, like that part freaked me out for a little bit. I was like, oh my God, do I have to do all this? That was like, no, you reached out to me, and it was a really nice process. So thank you.
Well, that's awesome. And that's a really big point of emphasis for us, is that we really do want to be teammates and partners and make the experience as easy as possible, because at the end of the day, I'll tell borrowers this who, I can sense a little anxiety, hesitation, is, I get it. You're making a sizable investment. This is a risk. If it doesn't go well, it's not, and we get that. And so, and I'll say this to anyone listening. This is what's important to us, but whether you use us or you use you're considering a different lender, and we obviously want everyone to come to Longhorn, but I appreciate that, but I get it, right? There are other lenders out there, but if you don't feel like your lender is willing to put their arm around you and walk you through step by step, or do hand holding if needed, or sit there for an hour and answer questions because you're just not sure, you're not comfortable, that's not going to be the right lender for you. And I want my borrowers to hold me to that as well. If I'm not available, if I'm not answering questions, this is a lot of money.
Yeah.
We're not talking about you going and buying a Slurpee, right?
For sure.
Which flavor is your favorite? So that's great hearing that. I appreciate that. And I think, that's something that we always want to strive to provide, which is that extra layer of education support as needed. We have people that they're like, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this long before I heard of Longhorn. You help give me some money, I'll be all right. And if that's what, a borrower wants, yeah.
Experienced enough to not need handhold, perfect. You're still an amazing lender for any of that, for any type of person. But you guys did amazing. I think the way you guys are going about this, I'm sure you're going to surpass any other lender out there in any time, because your care for us new investors you could see it. Yeah, I can see that you really want to help anybody that wants to be helped, and that's amazing.
What about the draw process? What was that experience like? Because we changed things up with a new draw. Okay, tell me about it.
I thought it was going to be a whole lot harder, difficult than what it is. All we had to do is just go on the app, say what's been completed, take pictures, and then you have somebody of your team come out and inspect. And it was usually same day. We get calls, texts as soon as they are, appointments that's scheduled and everything. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, they're coming. No, it was more like, hey, we're here. Everything looks good. We'll get this done. And within like 24 hours, the funding was there.
Yeah, and we
It was there.
yeah, starting in 2025, we partnered with SiteWire, and our draw process, which I thought was easy before, is even easier now. And the other thing that's great about it is there's a gentleman in our office named Kevin Tanner who is really quick to jump on any troubleshooting needs when it comes to the draw request, and he's super responsive, and he's got a team that is able to help, and the folks at SiteWire as well. So that's, the funding, the service, the speed, those are core principles of what we do. The speed of the draw request, the ability to close, and I'm glad you had that experience of the draw request.
There are investors like, requesting draws is the most difficult thing. They come out and they do this. They want all this paperwork, and I'm like, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that experience. Sorry, I can't relate.
We should get you we need to buy a Super Bowl commercial and just have you star and share all your, to the DFW Metroplex and beyond.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll help you all throughout DFW.
No, I appreciate it. All right, I do want to ask you. I think it's really important for investors to understand, or potential investors, to understand what existing investors probably have experienced, which is it's not, when you from buying a house to either flipping it or refinancing and turning it into a rental, it's not always smooth sailing. And I think it's important for someone sitting on the couch wondering, hey, can I do this, to be prepared that there are going to be road bumps, but you can navigate those road bumps. So what were some of those road bumps for you on the Glen Park house?
So, of course, it's our first flip, so we weren't really sure of the work, like not the labor work, but like the rehab work. There's so many hidden components, so many hidden factors that we maybe didn't consider or didn't think about. Most of it was not by sight. It was more like what's behind the walls, what's here, what's that. So one of the major things that we had to do was we had to do the plumbing, because it was all cast iron. We didn't think about that. Well, we knew about that, but we didn't think that it was going to be kind of corroded in the end. So that ended up being like a big thing that we're like, okay, cast iron pipes. What do we need to make sure? So now it's a learning piece. So now me and my husband, well, especially my husband, he's the one that's doing research on cast iron, like how to, kind of navigate or learn more for it. But it's a learning experience, and it's just, you got to take it how it is. And like I said, I know that with there's a risk everywhere, I guess. It's not going to be a smooth process throughout the whole thing. So I was expecting some things to come through, but then when it was this, and then we had the copper stolen from the AC, then we had the AC condenser stolen, and it was not in a bad neighborhood either. So it's I came to learn, and that's when it led me to talk to other investors, just to kind of see what their experiences were. And they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me my first time. So it wasn't like I was feeling bad about it. I was just like, okay, it's a part of the process. So now we know what to look for, what not to do, what to do, and just.
Well, all right. So what is something what is something you do differently, or what's something you would or wouldn't do now, as you consider your next potential investment?
Well, with Glen Park, I think it was a kind of a different experience just because we bought it from a wholesaler. So we were only able to tour the house once. So it wasn't like we could go anytime that we thought, or we had a contractor come out. So I think with our next one, if we do buy it from a wholesaler, now we know, okay, you're only coming in once. You better make sure you have your crew lined up to make sure that they know what to look for, that you know what to look for. So part of it's plumbing, AC. Oh, and our AC ducts were all corroded and stuff. So we're like, AC, now we know. Now we have a little spreadsheet where my husband's like, okay, we're going to walk this, we're going to walk that. And you don't get this until you actually have the experience, because now you know what to look for. So for sure, we're going to make sure that we have a crew lined up to be able to do those things. But also just kind of have an idea of what our vision for the home is, because most of it was me and him debating, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do there? And then it leads to where we don't know, and we're like, what do we do? You know? But I think it's just, you learn it from experience. I don't think it's something that you can come in and be like 100% proof ready, I guess, because
You don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah.
but I guess just having a little bit more of experience just kind of helps you.
So on the plumbing, did you end up having to pay more than what was on the bid? Okay, and how did you navigate all that?
Well, we did have money saved, so that was a good thing. We did go over budget.
That's okay, but that happens, and that's why. And I wanted to ask,
Because of those things.
right? And we always tell. I think I was talking with Deborah the other day, and we were talking about tips we'd give beginners and tips we'd give people who aren't beginners, but maybe they still. And we always have a lot to learn, right? They're kind of intermediates. And I don't remember if we said this or not, but if we didn't, what we should have also shared is that if your thought is that it's always going to go as planned, then you're putting yourself in a tough spot. And if you're only prepared financially, then, and we always would tell borrowers, and I think sometimes it's an eye roll, and I get it, but because when mom and dad are trying to be cautious and the kid wants to jump off the swing when he's at the very top of his swing, you're like, you think about all the potential broken bones, whereas the kid's like, oh, what could go wrong? This is amazing. Maybe I can be on YouTube. We got to be mom and dad sometimes, and understand, because we do see a lot of the stuff, and sometimes you do go over budget, and that's why we tell people, hey, you don't want to spend every last penny just to be able to close, right? You need to have some cushion. You need to be prepared for, right? So that was huge for you, right?
Yes. And like I said, I knew we wanted to do this for a while. So my main focus was saving. Like, I'm going to save, because I'm a real estate agent. So I'm like, every commission check, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it. So it wasn't hard, but it was just more like, we have to not go out and eat all the time, So it was a little sacrifice to be able to complete it, because I knew coming in, it wasn't going to be perfect. I knew the 62,000. Okay, yes, we have it. But in my head, I'm always like cautious.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always like, okay, what if? And the fact that we had a little bit saved up aside from the closing costs was like godsend, because I was like, if we didn't have this, how would we have been able to complete it? And my husband's like, we wouldn't have. Like, it would have taken us longer to complete it, basically.
Yeah, and just in general, I said earlier, hey, whether you use us or someone else, make sure you got a lender who's willing to take the time to answer questions. You also need to make sure you have a lender that you feel like is looking out for your best interest, right?
Sure.
And no one wants to hear no, right? People always want to hear yes.
Yeah.
But what happens if we just say yes to a deal and you don't have those funds, and the plumbing isn't what you expected it to be, and now you can't make payments, and that.
I mean, yeah, usually that's a turning,
Right.
So much anxiety would have.
Well, then that's and unfortunately, as a lender, we can't. We can't guarantee anything, right? But we can try our best to put the ball on the tee, and we have to consider at the best.
So important to have your number.
Well, then that was going to get into that next.
Yeah.
But we got to consider a little bit of all right, in 2019, we couldn't have predicted the pandemic, right? It's some extreme. We can't forecast every worst case scenario, but we can, we can encourage you to be prepared for things not going perfectly. Now, the numbers are a huge part of it. And not just knowing or feeling like the numbers going into the deal, but then, that appraisal is huge, because it does kind of give you some reassurance that, hey, the value I think in this house is there. And so when I do want to put it back on the market, or I need a refinance for a rental, that value I'm not being misled on the value. How did you feel comfortable with the numbers? Was that something that Deba shared with you? Like, hey, I think the ARV will probably be X, Y, and Z. Your background as a realtor, did that help? How did you kind of get to the point where you're like, yeah, the numbers on this deal make sense?
So when we were looking, me and my husband kind of knew where we wanted to be. We didn't want to be too far away from where we were at. So I had to look in areas where I was like, okay, this could be a good return. This could be a good return. So Deborah was a major part of that because being a realtor, obviously I know what buyers look, all that. But when it comes to my own, I felt brand new. Does that make sense? Like, I was like, oh my God, this is not, I know this, but I don't know this because now I'm on a completely different side. And what I think or what I knew was like, okay, now let's take it back to an investor side. And I'm like, okay, let's go back. So knowing the numbers when we were looking, we're like, okay, what's our purchase price, right? And we were looking, and then we got the pre-approval from you, and we're like, okay, we have to stay within this range just to kind of know where we want to be. And then when we looked at the homes sold in that area, I was like, this is a great deal. This is really going to be really nice, especially because there isn't a lot of remodeled homes in that area. It's a established neighborhood, and it's older community where the resident people have lived there since they built those houses. So I was like, okay, we're going to be okay. And then when we saw the appraisal come in, I was like, this is good.
Yeah.
This is good. Like, and then my husband's like, okay, how do we make sure that we're able to get that amount? So that's where me touring houses, me looking at this, and it kind of gave me an idea because I know what buyers were looking for because all my buyers are like, I want this, I want that. So when it came to this house, I was like, we need to do this, but still stay within that budget. And my husband's like, how are we going to do this? And I was like, we're just going to wing it, bro. We're just going to wing it. And he's like, we can't just win. And we're like, he's very analytical. He's very numbers driven. And I'm like, we're just gonna wing it. Like, he's like, well, what are we gonna do? He was trying to do like other stuff, and I'm like, no, this is what's gonna get buyers in here. I was like, kitchen, and I started pointing out a lot of things. So he's like, we have to stay within the budget.
That's why you're a good team, right? Yeah, he keeps you in check. You have a creativity.
Going like, this is what we're gonna do. And he's like, is that within our budget? And I'm like, make it within our budget.
You make it, yeah, that's right.
But that's how the numbers are the big part.
Yeah.
So you do, and Deba's really good at making sure that you stay within those numbers. When we were making offers, we're like, okay, what can we offer? What can we do this? And she's like, well, you got to look at what your rehab's going to be. And I was like, okay, because obviously those numbers have to come hand in hand, right? So I was like, okay, so whenever we got the budget number, I was like, Deb, are you sure? Like, I was nervous. I was nervous because, one, that's a lot of money, right? So I was like, and I was looking at the house, and I was like, is this really going to take just that amount? Like, I didn't believe it. Like, I was like, this is not going to take $62,000. Like, how, right? But once you start adding things up and doing this and doing that, now we kind of saw like, okay, flooring is this, flooring is that. So it helped. It helped a lot.
Yeah, and now when you get ready for the next one, you'll have that experience under your belt. And can I tell you a quick little nerdy, like,
Yeah.
still to this day when I get an appraisal, because we get the appraisal before you guys do, right? And I see that the value of the appraisal either met or exceeded what you're expecting, I still get like a little rush. Oh, yeah, it's great. I love it.
Oh,
It's awesome to know that if it's on the other side.
I'm gonna make myself gonna steal.
Yeah, I'll be all right, but there are going to be some conversations. But no, I still love that, and I'm glad that we were able to get that for Glut Park. Yeah,
Appraisal come in. I looked at Miguel and I was like, dang, like, for real?
Yeah.
I didn't think, like, I mean, I thought, but I didn't think that it was going to be at that value. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, who does this, you know?
And that's the other thing. And with your background as a realtor, you have this expertise, but I've seen Deborah work with people who don't have any real estate experience whatsoever. And her ability to understand comps and understand where the value might exist in a house is huge, because that really is a big separator, I think, between Deba and some of these other folks who try to, and even close with good intentions.
You enough information for them to.
Sure. Yeah.
Gonna need them anymore.
No, but Deborah's like,
Nah, Deborah's like, what do you need to know?
Yeah.
What's wrong? This, Zayra, come on. You know, and I was like,
Yeah.
I know, Deborah, I just have some.
Sarah, I think, and you mentioned talking to other investors, so I want to ask you if you don't mind. Well, if someone watching this or listening to this is like, hey, she's real, I'm connecting with her, I'd like to get into this, or maybe I've had an experience and I want to learn from her, how can people get a hold of you?
So I am on Instagram. You can follow me there. Do you want me to send it?
yeah, sports if you're comfortable.
It's Zayra_Dallas Realtor. I am on there. I'm trying to work with more investors, so hopefully I can get that ball rolling. And I know for sure this is gonna be definitely a door opener because I'm talking to you and we're getting experiences out, and most of it is just getting started.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, follow me and we can get you connected with Jared.
All right. Well, Zayra, thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. Congrats on number 1 in the books, and
Appreciate it.
can't wait to continue to follow your journey.
Yay, thank you so much. And I really want to thank you. I want to thank your whole team because, like I said, without your guys' support, help, guidance, people like me wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you.